Welcome to Huskies at Home, our weekly interview series featuring UConn head coaches and how they're handling these uncertain times with new episodes Saturdays at 10 a.m. exclusively on SNY.TV. This time, it's our pleasure to be joined by the winningest field hockey coach in D1 history, Nancy Stevens. Nancy, first off, just how are things? How's it going?
You know, it's nice to see another human being. So that's like a really good thing. It's fun because I go out walking every day and I haven't seen my neighbors as much as I have. There are people I've never seen before, but everyone's out walking, some strolling their babies, people are out biking. So I think in some ways it kind of brings the neighborhood together. One of my neighbors right across the street just had a baby girl, so I think with all the uncertainty, obviously all the horror and disappointment, when you have a birth in the neighborhood, it does bring joy. So we try, every day we try to look for something like that.
Your season usually gets going toward the end of August. So it's a little bit of a different spot than some of these other sports who had seasons cut short or just canceled entirely. What does this time of year usually look like for you? And how has that been impacted by everything that's gone on?
Yeah, I mean, first, our hearts go out to the spring sport athletes and their coaches. It's just hard to even imagine, as a coach that your season is canceled. However, as you mentioned, we're a fall sport, so we got our competitive season in. We won I think it was our 8th consecutive Big East championship and advanced to the Elite Eight. So we had a wonderful season. But actually, we do a full spring season. So we do actually about 3 months of practices in the spring, starting beginning of the spring semester, and we go right through the end of April. So we got about 5 full weeks of that in. We got a competition in. So we're missing out on about 5 weeks of the training. But I'm thankful. Again, it's, we're trying to focus on what to be grateful for. So I'm grateful for the fact that we got the training that we did in. We got the competition that we did in, and now we just move forward from there.
Well, how often are you in contact with your players, and what sorts of things are they asking?
What's happening is we're having weekly team meetings. It's just great to see their faces on the computer screen, but also you can check in with them. And then we give them assignments. So once a week they have an assignment to do in a small group. So that's a way that they can stay bonded and connected. And then what we do is we're checking in with them weekly now, so that our coaching staff will call each of the players. And then you get a different story, because now someone's father may be unemployed, or someone's aunt is an ICU nurse, and there are those concerns that we can listen to and support.
Before we go on, Nancy, I feel like I just have to mention what sounds like a furry friend in the background there. I don't want to get too off track, but could you let us know what's going on over there?
I know, I apologize. So I have a
no worries. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, my players kept saying, like, did you watch Tiger King? I'm like, no, I can't watch that because it's about magnificent animals in captivity. But I do have a Bengal cat, and they're actually bred from the Asian leopard cat. So they look like leopards, but they're the size of a cat. And
wow.
They're enough generations out so that they are legal. You can have them in Connecticut. So at first I threw him out on the deck. I'm like, well, that'll work. No, that didn't work. He was just, there you go. So
there he is.
Yeah, here we are. He'll probably be up on the mantle behind me soon. And so I apologize. I do.
Hey, don't apologize. This is why we call this Huskies at Home. We want to know what it's like in the Stevens house.
Yeah.
To get back to what you were talking about,
sure.
with keeping in touch with some of your players, obviously they are handling some difficulties, as everyone is facing their own unique challenge. How much of what you're discussing with your players is field hockey and just life and what's happening today?
Yeah, I think it's probably as much about what's going on in their lives as the field hockey piece. The field hockey piece right now has been very much minimized. But what's really good is that the university, and certainly the Department of Athletics at UConn, is providing counseling services for any student athlete that needs them, and probably, I would think, for the general student body as well. so our players can connect with a counselor in student health services, and I think that is there for them, and that kind of support is there for them. Two of our players are doing something really special. Jerry Langford in Maryland and her sister are sewing masks that can be given out to healthcare providers. And then we have a player in Guilford, Olivia, and she is helping deliver food and supplies to neighbors. So I think what we're also encouraging our players to do is reach out to their communities and see if they can be of service.
You're in a unique situation as well, because you have some players from different countries across the world. What challenges has that been presenting?
Yeah, first and foremost, we wanted to get them home. So we have 8 international players on the roster, and a lot of flight cancellations occurred. It was stressful for them. We were there to support them and help them with this, but we did get everybody home safely.
Another aspect to your leadership, aside from the winning culture, is just the reputation that you have, where you've built this sort of family environment with your players, past and present. So how difficult is it just not having them around?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And one of my good friends is the women's lacrosse coach at Navy. And I always thought, oh my goodness, like, you're going to coach these young women for 4 years and be a part of their life. And then you're knowing that they're going to maybe fly a fighter jet or work on an aircraft carrier or go into a conflict zone. And I just thought that would be just so difficult. But in a way, I now understand that, because we have a number of recent alumni that are physicians or they're nurses. So what I did was I personally reached out to each of them, just to see how they were doing, how their families were doing, but also to tell them how heroic we feel they are.
What sort of outlook do you have for the roster ahead?
We graduated 3 seniors and 2 of them were starters. So I think when you look at that math, to think when you have a starting 11, that you only 2 starters and out the puzzle pieces that are missing, I think we're really enthused and excited about the talent we're bringing back and the talent we're bringing in. And we feel really good about it. And of course, there's that uncertainty of when we'll actually begin. We always talk to our team about the team around the team. So for any entity to be successful, you need a whole team of supporters around that team. Now, our players are so fortunate. We're going to have our next Zoom call. We're going to have our sports nutritionist speak to them. We have a great team physician. Our athletic trainer is terrific. And so all the people that support us make us successful. And I think that for UConn Nation, this is the time, I have to be honest, this is the time that athletics will need their support more than ever. These types of situations pull people together, not apart. And I know that our fan base is so enthusiastic, and they're excited for us to begin our individual journeys again. And we know that support is just going to keep building.
Head field hockey coach at UConn, Nancy Stevens. What a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time and for joining us.
My pleasure, Maria. And you be safe.
And that'll do it for this week's Huskies at Home. Be sure to tune in next week when our guest will be head coach of the men's basketball team, Dan Hurley. Don't miss it, and be well.